Good evening, everybody, and welcome to TFC Live Season 3, Episode 20. Mercenary Raid Review. I can talk. This is not a good start. And weekly update. Welcome to everybody on the panel. We've got George.
Good evening, everybody.
And we've got Ren.
Yeah!
I thought I took the desk away from you. And we've got Cuddle.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, and welcome to your first official TFC Live show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
And of course, me. We've got a lot to go through today, so let's just go ahead and dive right in. Slide deck content today. We've got. We're going to go through the TFC mission statement. We're going to take a look at the Mercenary Raid review. I also almost called it a Mercenary Raid autopsy. We've got the weekly update. Got a couple of TLCs. We've got VXP Weekend coming up. We've got base parts, map changes. We've also got FM changes. And then we've got some bug fixes and balance changes. So let's jump right in. Just wanted to go over the mission statement. We did make a change to this over the last couple of days. The Forsaken Council, TFC, is a community-driven team of Battle Pirates players. We've got one goal, and that's to create a place where players can share knowledge, ask questions, and become better BP players. Over the weekend, of course, we did have the raid. We did have issues where people were very frustrated. That being said, the TFC page is not a substitute for the forum, and it's also not in a bulletin board format. So when we have a pinned thread up there, there's a reason that we have the pinned thread so that all of the comments can be corralled in one area, not only so that it doesn't clutter up the page, but also because that link was shared with Kicks for review. The TFC Facebook page is not the place for TFC or players to make demands of Kixeye. That's not what we're here for. We're here to share information and to help players play better. The TFC isn't sponsored, affiliated, or endorsed by Kixeye. Irregardless of what people say, we don't get paid for what we do. This is all strictly voluntary. And the TFC page is not the place to dictate how others should play their game, if they should coin, how much they should coin, or if they should coin at all. It's not the place to call for boycotts, and it's not the place for you to get on there and tell other folks to go ahead and stop coining. Any of you guys want to add anything to that?
I mean, one of the things that people, I think, don't quite realize is that it's not a bulletin board system. Like, it's Facebook, so we are limited as to what we can do on the page. So, you know, if someone puts up, like if Ren or I put up a video for, you know, how to, or here's a good run for the target or a path or something like that, it will get, like, after, like, the way it was this weekend before we closed down everything, it would get buried within seconds. Like, you have to literally scroll all the way down. And the way Facebook has it, it's a little bit funky about how it displays stuff too. So you might not ever see something that's relevant that was posted 20 minutes ago, because everyone's throwing all these posts up that really are about the same thing, which is why we do the pinned threads once in a while, or try and keep it into one post, because we can't set it up where you can just see, like, the title and then you can go into it like a bulletin board system. Yeah. And the forums are the forums. Facebook is Facebook, you know?
Yep.
We're limited.
And just to add to that, just with the sheer volume, there were over 235 posts and comments that were deleted over the raid. And so if you think of when you jump on Facebook, you may see like 5 or 6 of the most recent. Imagine 210 extra to scroll through. And the point is that we don't want to bury the good information, the videos that the players are taking the time to make to help people with the raid and stuff like that.
And we are also all players as well of this game, and we are also frustrated by it.
Yep.
But we're not good enough to be experts, just so you know.
Okay.
You know it's not that, right, George? Experts that should agree to defend Kixeye and be on their side and can't speak ill of the cause.
Yeah, I ain't doing that. We don't qualify.
We definitely don't qualify.
Yep. One more thing, rule number 5, keep posts and comments on the TFC clean and respectful so that we can foster a better community. Yes, we know everybody's mad. We all get mad and we all get frustrated. But if you post something that makes a sailor's wife blush, it's going to get deleted. and you will probably be shortly behind it. So, let's work on what we're sharing. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to express your displeasure, but it's not okay to make personal attacks at people, whether that be people on our page or people from KIXEYE. Let's just go ahead and keep it a little bit cleaner if we can.
So just to be clear, no midget clown porn, right?
No.
Okay.
And if your post consists of 2 words and the first one begins with F and the second one is KIXEYE, that's probably going to get deleted. So, okay. So let's go ahead and jump in, Ren. George?
So this actually really depressed me. I like over the last couple of years, I've been talking to Larry a whole lot. I used to read his blogs religiously. It's actually the reason why I started writing my blogs. And I saw this the night that he had done it, and I reached out to him and talked to him. I was really depressed because he said it, I mean, as succinctly as you can put it. It was fun. Now it isn't, and he's done. And it's really a shame. And I think it's I don't even know how to actually say it. Like it's a loss to the BP community. He had an amazing understanding of a lot of the aspects of the game and had a really good view of everyday players and stuff. So this saddens me a lot, and I wish him happy sales, fair wins and all, but I'm not happy about it at all.
Yep, it's very sad to see. And we don't normally touch on players leaving the game, but his input to the game and the players was and has been very important over the years. So we thought it prudent for us to just go ahead and say a few words about it. Okay. So let's talk about the Mercenary raid.
Do we have to?
Yes. But first, I need to know if Nick caught any fish over the weekend.
I haven't seen him in chat yet.
No, actually, I haven't either. Okay, so it did something new this time, calling this the player's pulse, because it was moving very fast during the raid, just to kind of give an idea of some of the activity, not only on our page, but also on the forums. Normally, we have about between 200 and 220 posts during a raid, and they're all really good posts about, helpful stuff with videos and tips and tricks and that kind of stuff. For the raid period, this time we had 316 posts, of which a whole lot of them got deleted, and we had over 6,000 comments on the page. Our pin thread ended up with 1,165 comments. We were very liberal about allowing people being cranky. There were very few that were removed. And then, of course, everybody's probably familiar with the forum thread that as of, I think it was this morning, was at a whopping 114 pages. You can usually tell when a raid is not going well by just the sheer volume of responses and comments from players. So it was a pretty close indicator that the players weren't happy.
Yeah, what really depresses me about this is that bottom discussion thread, 134? Is that what that says?
114.
3.4 thousand replies. Is that what that was?
Yep. 50,000 views, 3.4
thousand. And how many responses from KIXEYE did we have in that thread?
3, I think.
And nothing at all today posted about it.
They're monitoring the situation.
Yeah, they're monitoring. I wonder where they're monitoring the situation or what they're even watching. Maybe they're watching reruns of How I Met Your Mother instead. I don't know. This really frustrates me because that is a massive amount of activity on both places, and we've got nothing. I mean, geez.
Well, we did get something, and we'll discuss that.
Yeah, I got a flagship into your house.
No, I meant the response to the question.
I'm
so
joking.
We have a couple of slides on that. But
sarcasm, sign up.
That's all right. Okay, so because everybody was on our page and on the forums expressing their displeasure, the game was dead. We talked about this on Saturday. I threw a quick post up at, I think it was like 9 Central Friday night and said, here's my sector. What does yours look like? And pretty much everybody else's was exactly the same. I included 2 screenshots here of 2 of the sectors that have the biggest most aggressive alliances that are out there. The people that are 500-600 million consistently every raid. base hitting, even during the raid, that kind of stuff. And it was just dead. I think the biggest or the most that I saw on any of the images was 3 red targets. And the one that had 3 red targets, 2 of those targets were actually salvages.
And this was Friday night, right?
This was Friday night prime time, yes.
Yeah, that's... If that's not indicative of anything, then I don't know what would be.
Yep. I mean, game chat was dead. I mean, my alliance chat, which is normally very chatty, was dead. No one was raiding. No one was base hitting. I know there were a couple of snipers that were out there, but you know, in my area, the normal snipees weren't even out. I mean, it was very dead. Okay. So what did that equate to with respects to participation and the points that players got? We took a couple of, I guess, touch points that we decided would be a good thing to look at with respects to where everybody's at. And so we came up with this chart. This is based on position of the global leaderboard within the last hour or after the raid. Not a very good chart. Just to get the flag only, there was about 16% of the players that participated were able to get the flag. Only 10% were able to have the points to get the flag and the 2 Howies. And then from then on up, it just goes down to less and less.
I mean,
so you gotta consider,
up...
I mean, for real, it's just, you can say it's just 13,000 players who were able, or 13, 15,000, whatever, something between those 2 numbers, who were able to redeem something from the raid store. Because 100,000 got you nothing, right? I think the lowest prices were 300,000 was like the Hornet UAV, the original old Hornet, and the Talon missile. So we went from not long ago, 20, 25, 30,000 players getting something from the raid to 13,000 getting something from the raid. So you know what? It's the ocean is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more empty, to the point where really, if they don't kill the game first, they will soon have to just shoot down 2 wards or shrink 2 wards, you know, 5 wards of 50 sectors or something like that, because it's just empty out there.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because, and not at the 50 million flag, you know, not everybody gets or expects to get the latest and greatest flagship. There are a lot of mid-level, lower, who are still coiners, people that are quite happy to get, you know, 15 million, you know, 20 million, that kind of stuff, you know, to get themselves like, you know, the last raid hull or a couple of things. And even they couldn't do it.
Well, you know, here's the thing. The end game players expect to be able to get what they want. And this raid precluded that. So essentially, you know, you gave those players who are generally the people that coin overall the most of, you know, for BP, the 2 choices of blitz or coin and grind, or just not get as much as you could. Because I know, like, last raid, I mean, I had to go back. I thought I only had 500 million. I had gotten like 800 something million, and like I got 150 this time tops, and that was because like at the end I was just screwing around and testing stuff, and I mean, I slow repaired the whole time. I couldn't test anything because we didn't have any. No, we'll get to that in another slide. Never mind. Go ahead.
One of the things I look for in raids is not only do I look at the top, whoever is in first position in my sector, I also look to see how much the leaderboard has filled up. And we didn't even hit 100 players in my sector, which is pretty active, until late Saturday night. And even at the end of the raid, only 54 people in my sector were able to claim anything, and that being just the Hornet. That was my cutoff. So over 40 people came in, were able to get a couple of 100 points, and then quit and disappeared for the entire weekend.
Yeah, my sector's leaderboard didn't fill up either, and there were like 20-something people over 1 million points.
Yeah, definitely a lot less activity than we're used to seeing. Um, okay, so let's take a look at why those numbers are so low. And normally when I do this, I have a list of things that were kind of good and a list of things that were bad and things that could be improved on. There's no way to sugarcoat this. The points payout for the targets, which we'll show in just a second, were significantly lowered for a lot of the targets. The prizes had price increases, not just on the tokens, but the value for the ships that are out there, the special, so on and so forth. Players couldn't use their half fleets, their half built fleets, and grind gazillions of points like they have been able to in the past. And when I reference these things, I'm not just referencing the last raid. I'm actually referencing, like the last 3 or 4 raids. Players could not use the assault cycle fleets on the lowest tier targets. You were able to break individual targets and get points that way, but it was almost impossible for folks with brand new fleets to go out there and complete a full set of, an A set or a B set without taking significant damage. And then the points value versus coin on any target, they really missed the mark on this.
That's the nice way of putting it. This sucked.
Yep.
This just
they did a great
sucked.
job.
Yep. So we got some numbers to. We do have a couple of good things. I'm not sure how good they ended up being.
Oh, this is a stretch. I'm going to say right now, this is as much of a stretch that this is bubblegum stretch.
I'm not going to hide it. It was done. Whether or not it was good enough, that's up to everybody. They did reduce the damage on Friday. Not sure it was enough. They reduced but didn't eliminate the hit down penalty for the higher level players, which was rather unusual because last time they did this, they just got rid of it completely. This time they only took away some of it. And with the reduction in damage and with the work and effort to some of the players that were out there, some of who posted on our page, and thank you very much, you were able to grind individual targets with some refits or some really funky stuff like putting in a couple of half-finished mana cores with a gut spill flag, those types of things.
One thing that really, this should speak to their raids entirely. If they have to continually reduce or remove the hit down penalty, that means higher levels are having to hit down, which means that your customer base, your players, are either not prepared for the target or you buff the target, because the high level players shouldn't have to hit down.
Well, the whole hit down penalty is broken
archaic,
by design because it's associated with base level, which has nothing to do with your preparedness for the raid. I mean, you can be a high level who just came back, and guess what? You didn't get manticores or whatever. So the hit down penalty should be based on the fleet you bring to the target, not on your base level at all. That mechanic is broken by design.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've said it's an archaic thing for ages now. I mean, I could see it from maybe the very bottom rung for the C targets, but the fact that this many players were hitting down, I think speaks more to the target than preparedness. I mean, we'll get to that slide too. And I mean, I don't know that anybody was fully prepared because we didn't even have all the stuff.
Well, even people who claim to be fully prepared mid-raid were still taking massive amount of damage, which is not looking up for next month if they keep the same parameters. Even a full fleet with a flagship, everything rank, everything built and armored was still taking a lot of damage if you chose the scattergun option. I'm
going to be interested to see if anyone's going to participate. I mean, there's already talk of people not participating in Bounty because of the damn release.
If I don't have a full fleet, and to me a full fleet is 4 ships, if I don't have a full fleet of ships, I don't expect to be able to do the most elite target, or at least not the most elite target for very little damage. I'm realistic in that sense. But if 90% of the player base only has, for example, in this raid, 3 manticores, I would expect those targets to be tuned to what most of the player base has. I mean, is that unreasonable to think?
Oh, I mean, for the first raid set, if you have gotten out the 4 hulls, especially if you had to coin to get them out, you should be cruising, and that's not what we saw.
Right.
And I'll say something. I'm still not entirely convinced the damage is off mark. The damage may be right. What may be off mark is the repair time on the combo, because, again, last year we had armors that didn't add any repair time, that added the armor pool, and the base repair time per ship was 3 hours, minus officer, minus R&D, you know. And then we had a flagship that could heal the other guys, which brought repair down even further. And now that they didn't only rip off the Band-Aid, I mean, they just cut you a new gash. You know, it's like, oh, here, there's no armor pool. The new armor adds repair time, and the flagship doesn't heal, and there's no CIC to heal. So, you know, we were whammed from so many different angles, right? I mean, ships that take 4 hours and a half to repair, flagships that don't repair. And I know we're going to cover some of that later, but lower payout on the sets, you know, it's just awful from every single angle you look at it from. It's just ugly. It's an ugly baby. There's no way to call that baby anything else but freaking ugly.
Also, this was the very first raid of this cycle. So if you didn't buy the early access premium pricing Manticore, if you come into this raid using your old assault fleets and hope to get the Manticore and all of its prizes, you got completely stomped. Yep.
And somebody put something in chat, and I apologize, I did mean to put that in the slide. M. Strati, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. What about those that bought a full fleet of Phoenix and could only do 41s? With the fleet retrofitted at level 2. There were a lot of people that I personally know of that purchased that fleet that were unable to use on the 60 targets. And
so
if I'm going...
Was the fleet poorly built? Was it a bad build for the Phoenix?
I to be honest, I can't answer that because I did not look very closely at the build. The guy just said, you know, expletive, $60 on expletive fleet, can't do this, and signed off. But I did hear other folks that said that their fleets weren't able to do it as well.
Okay, I'm asking because my Phoenixes at, like, when I started raid R0, by the end of raid R2, they were doing 61s and 65s really well. The 63s were horrible. 63s were just bloody awful.
But maybe that's where what they were doing.
Yeah, but still my fleet could complete a set. If I want, like, I tried that, I recorded that on my channel. My Phoenixes that, you know, could complete one set. But after I learned that the 61 and 65s were more balanced, I just kept running 65s. And I could do, like, depending, 4 to 6 65s and scored like 1.5 million before I had to dock the Phoenixes for repair. Was that not doable with the Kickside build? I have no idea. I haven't seen their build.
I can't speak to the individual fleets, but I know of the foe. There were, like I said, there were a couple that weren't able to complete full.
And did they come with a flagship?
I believe they did come with a flagship, and I know they did come with charged armor.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and take a look at the build.
I'm just surprised. Okay.
I would also like to point out a very small silver lining to the Skyfire fleet that Kixeye sold you. Yes, it was terrible in the raid, but since titanium targets and our Manticores don't seem to work terribly well together, at least with the Skyfire fleet and Phoenix fleet, you can still manage to get titanium now.
So actually, you know, Ren, you got me really curious, and I started throwing numbers around for the 2 hulls. Like, I took a regular buck, and then I took a Manticore, and the Buccaneer fully kited out comes out to a 0.72 for repair efficiency. The Manticore, even with the armor on it, comes out to a 0.47.
Right.
So it's the damage that's gone insanely high.
Okay.
Yep.
That's bad. That's really bad. That makes that even worse. I mean, oh, geez.
Okay. Let's go ahead and I'm going to throw this one to George.
Oh, boy. The whammies. So this is actually a comparison of the different raids and stuff, and what the elite targets paid out, the tier 7s and all that, everything else. And if you notice the numbers for the payouts, they went down. And then in addition to that, or concurrently with that, the damage went through the roof. And we just figured out live on the air, it was way worse than we had actually thought previously. And then they also bumped the prize prices, which was like all three of those at the same time, on top of everything that Ren said earlier about, you know, the changes, all different changes all at the same time. I mean, this was bad. This was very, very bad.
Oh,
your cost per target was insanely, outrageously high. You know, the players that are expecting to hit, you know, hundreds of millions just stop playing. I mean, all three of these at the same time is a bad way to adjust a raid set for anything. I don't care if we're going into a new raid set or not. We have a history and an expectation as players because of what you've done in the past, and this was not anywhere close.
And Kato brought a good point up. I mean, do you think any player riding Skyfires or Phoenixes could ever hope to get the Manticore and the whole kit without help?
Nope.
Nope.
Right? Because how many 60s would you have to complete? And here's my other point. I don't know if we have that somewhere. I don't. The Manticore, the Scattergun, the Special, and the CIC were 50 million points.
Jeez.
50 million points, okay? Forget about the flagships for people who got the kit last month. People who didn't and just wanted to get the Manticore now, 50 million points. Historically, I remember back when you could get the new ship, the new weapon, the new special for like 15, 12 million, and then inflated to 25 million recently. And now it's 50 million, right? Because that CIC alone added 10 million points. It's a fourth component you need now. We didn't need it before. And crazy expensive, and big mistake in the locked store, which took huge mistake because there's no replacement for the CIC, right? I mean, you can run an older scattergun, you can run a different special like narrow firing aperture and the other one. There's no replacement for the CIC, and the Manticore without the CIC, adding that 200 deflection to all ships in the fleet per CIC, it's fundamental. The Manticore does not work without it. It's useless.
Yeah, there's no, all the resistances are baked into the CIC.
Yeah,
not onto
and they put the CIC in the lock store. So guess what? Like, you can even now, if you just got 20 million and you got the Manticore, you literally have nothing. Unless they run the Scorpion Sting TLC, again, identical to what it was, where Phoenixes can do it, right? Because if they change that one to be harder than it was, they're just locking a huge swath of players out of raid.
Which makes no sense at all.
No, they literally want to shut the game down if that's the case, because they don't want people to play. They're preventing people from being able to play.
All right. Okay, so George, you were talking about the prices. Did you want this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can absolutely rant on this craziness because this was just asinine of epic proportions. You know, actually, I just want to actually, because this actually bothers me too. Going back to what we were just talking about, why in the world do we have the CICs? Because the way that it was initially, you know, explained to us, we were going to have choices, and we're not seeing choices. I mean, if we only have one CIC, what's the difference of, why don't you just bake it into the hull? But anyway, so Mercenary Raid, this, you know, we got no generic token structure tokens, no campaigns for the lower players to hit with their older hulls. The token increases were insane. I mean, George, a lot of what?
Sorry, before you carry on, you touched on a very good point. If you remember back in December, they communicated to us that the first Siege raid in January was tuned for ships without the CIC.
Yes.
So people could actually run Buccaneers without the CIC. Sorry, Hydras without the CIC.
I was going to say, what kind of Bucky do you have?
No. Yeah. But what I mean is, like, that time they tuned the raid to be doable without CICs on the Hydras, because they only released the CICs in January. And this time they just expect you to have the whole thing but put the CS in the lock store. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I didn't see a tuning for, lesser fleets because they knew, I mean, they know exactly how many tokens people have. They know that they've, reduced the token amounts, and this, it just leads, good segue for this one. A lot of players were expecting to get tokens in the raid to finish their fleets, and no announcement, no nothing. Hey, surprise, no tokens. And given, this is something that just is really frustrating because at the beginning, it used to be something around like 290 tokens a year that you'd get. And then they started cutting that down. And then they cut it down through the FM. And then they started cutting it down in the raid even more, where instead of getting the 10 days during the hull store or the store raid, we were getting the same as a regular raid. And now we get none at all. And the problem with that is that most players, because the costs are different in a raid, most players rely on those tokens to keep up in the game, to just get ahead and get to the point where they're caught up. And now you have massive swaths of the community that not only couldn't catch up, couldn't adjust, they couldn't even get the damn stuff that they needed.
Yeah.
And removing the tokens was horrendous. The price increase, I mean, Butcher's Bay first day Dragon token 3.6 million, Revolution 4 million. And I have to go back to the other slide to see what the prices were for the S targets. But then Mercenary, guess what? 8 million. Oh, and we reduced the amount out of the S target as well. So, sorry.
Yeah, just to...
And increase the damage and increase the repair time.
Yeah, I got hit hard with the generic tokens, and I know I wasn't the only one. I put my last Manticore refit in, and even though we know we only do like 2 or 3 days at a time, because we are conditioned and used to seeing, at least X many days of build tokens, I threw that bad boy in and said, okay, I have enough time to take the tokens from the raid, speed that up, finish that up, and get my Manticore flag built in time for BXP. Well, Rue had to cancel a refit, lost 4 days of refit on her Manticore because she had to start her flag in order for her flag to be done before the VXP weekend. And so that annoyed me, just simply because, there was no notice or no heads up on it.
Yeah, it's absolute crap. And it messed everybody up. And, now if this is what the norm's going to be going forward, we have a limitation on the tokens in the FM. We have no tokens in the raid, but I don't see build times going down at all.
Oh, the flagship went down.
Oh, the flagship. Oh, yeah, that makes up for the entire year of tokens. Yeah, Kicksai's got it right. Yeah, good job. No, I mean this is just asinine. I mean, I can't. This is the wrong show for me to go off the way I want to go off, but this is effing ridiculous.
All right. Cuddle, you said you had a point?
Yes, about the campaigns and the removal thereof. The campaigns are like the last safety net if you don't have a fleet or anything else for lower level players to be able to get, and in this raid, actual higher level players too, to be able to get some points. Their removal removes that safety net and forced a whole bunch of people not to get anything.
Yep. And I went hunting yesterday. I did talk to a couple of Alliance people, and from what I understand, the campaigns were in their last cycle, and that this was the first time that they had been removed, even though they weren't announced in the other ones. You're right, it is a safety net for a lot of people, and even for somebody who's just starting out and maybe has the older fleet, the ability for them to go ahead and use that and get some points from that. So it's a really good point.
Sanctus were used actually in the last couple of them, I believe.
Yep. And I know Hefe didn't like this, but titanium, uranium, and base parts were available in multiple areas. There was a reason behind this, and I actually kind of like this because there were different price point levels. If you needed a quick 2,000 or 3,000 to go ahead and start off a retro, and you were a lower level, you were able to buy a smaller amount for a smaller cost versus buying a not so big amount for a very large cost. So I actually did like that for the lower players, to where they could go ahead and buy that smaller amount if they wanted to. Okay, so some issues problems. Not sure how to put this. Things that caused angst, I guess, during the raid and preparation for the raid. First off,
asininity. That's the word of the night. Asininity.
Yeah, I'm not saying that 10 times fast. The first one was resistors. I went the speed 6 because I was like, I'm not going to play the refit game. I'll worry about that later. But you could only get 3 of one type, a maximum of 3 of one type prior to the end of the raid. So if the expectation was that you were supposed to have a fleet of 4 fully built Manticores, including the latest and greatest tech, you couldn't do it. You had to mix your fleet, and then you've got different resistances across the fleet. The other thing that was really, really annoying is the negative resource costs. If I go out and smack a target, I fully expect to be repaid in resources the amount that it's going to cost me to repair that fleet. And that wasn't just a problem across the 100. It was a problem, and actually it's systemic. It's across the game right now. I don't know the last time, if anybody's ever paid attention, if you go out and hit like the 103 base parts, I think you get like 100 of each resource. The way that the hulls cost now, and how resource intense it is, I got enough chores to do without having to go out and hit salvages to get resources.
Oh, you want to spend more time on the game doing chores and hitting.
I'm just going to come hit your base for them. That's what I'm going to do.
Good luck. That first part really pissed me off. Like, I actually had to design the last hull around the change for that, because I build weird, and I'm going to have to refit that thing now, right? Because now this week I'm going to be able to get the other resistor. I hope. I mean, unless they've pulled them out of the FM. I mean, what the hell were they thinking about this? This made no sense at all.
What this did for me is allowed me to use what I call my Duracell ships. I had a whole bunch of extra limited hulls for the Onslaught and a couple for the missile cruiser, but I just built some naked Onslaughts because they each store 200 of each res, 200 million of each res, and I just set them aside completely blank when I'm full on res, and I save them until the raid when this happens, and then I just burn them.
Yeah, I'm too busy building stuff.
I know.
Don't have enough time to.
Well, a naked Onslaught takes under 12 hours to build.
Yep.
Knowing my luck, I'd forget about it, and the next day I'd be like, why don't I have anything in my shipyard?
Fair enough.
Okay, and then the other thing that happened, and this kind of goes along the communication, I will give Kix props. When they first started talking about these targets, when they were VXP targets, they did share the turret. Well, I'm going to use my highly technical term, the fatties that had the turrets on the boats. They did share the mechanics behind those, about how they were buildings and treated that way. They did talk about the ammo carrier and that type of stuff, but there was a key piece that was left out, and that was that you could not counter the prototype weapons. There were people that were refitting thinking they'd put the wrong thing, oh my God, I need to take off phalanx and I need to put sprints on, which was also compounded by the fact that some misinformation was provided at the beginning of the raid as well, where one thing was said and then something else wasn't. That's something I think that, it's a new mechanic. Whether or not the players like it or not is one thing, but not knowing about it, I think is I don't know what the term is, but it would have been nice to know about it up front.
You mean the lack of transparency is frustrating players again?
That's the word. That's
Shocker.
the word.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Bugs. We had a few. Some painful, some not so much. Blitz map coin repair issue, and it wasn't happening to everybody. The first couple of days, it was like random 69s would not let you coin on the map, so therefore you couldn't blitz. The last couple of days, it seemed to move into the 89s as well, so that was causing issues for those that were blitzing. Fleet's not repairing. Rumor has it, George, that you had this problem.
I had this problem a whole lot of damn times, and I was pissed a whole lot of times on top of being pissed off about the raid. Why is the raid and like the FM not in the bugs? Oh, because they didn't fix it. That's why. Never mind. Yeah, I had fleets. I actually went out. There was a couple of times I would go, and this happens during the regular game too. It wasn't just the raid. I'll start a repair. I'll do the whole shebang. I'll start a rocket. I'll upgrade a wall. I'll bank my resources. I'll go out on the map. And a lot of times I'll go out on the map with another fleet, or I have a fleet out there, and I'm going to go and do, chores, because chore pirates. And When I come back to the damn base, I haven't left the game. I come back to the base, and the damn fleet is not frickin' repairing. I'm still in the game, and it's doing this crap now. So yes, during the raid is even worse so because I was slow repairing, and I'd come back 2 hours later, and it's like, oh, look, I have to wait another 2 hours. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I only got hit with it once, but it was once towards the end that was kind of critical that really frosted me. But anyway, Mike Morfino brought this up. There were some sunken ships still causing targeting movement.
So, when that happened, did you coin the repair?
Nope.
Okay, because if you do, that just gives them an incentive not to fix the problem.
No, I did not. I will admit I did spend some coin initially testing, and that was trying to find ways for tricks for lower people. Is there a glut that we can kill for points? Can you kill this oil rig? That kind of stuff. I spent a little bit of that at the beginning, but after that it was one small run for a couple of points, and then that was it. I certainly did not spend what I normally do. Mike brought this one up. The sunken ship still causing targeting movement. There was and you can see on this image, if you killed the ship and you click the spot where the ship sunk and the turrets were on the sunken ship, you couldn't move there.
Yeah, and it was really that was real annoying. It happened to me a lot as I was trying to drive like a maniac because, driving an auto hull. And if you were getting up to where you were ending the last click, you click the thing, it goes to where you clicked it, and you want to turn or go somewhere else, and you happen to click one of these things, your ship doesn't move and gets caught really quick, which sucks.
Yeah, it happened to me as well. Like clicking there and you select an invisible dead entity and your ship doesn't move.
Yep.
Yep.
Annoying as hell.
And then if everything that we went through wasn't fun enough and enough excitement throughout the raid, right before the end of the raid, and I believe it was just after Alpha finished, everybody else lost their 100s, their 89s and 69s from the map.
Yep.
I know there was a rolling spawn afterwards. I think the 200s were out for about 40 minutes, but I know folks in the 400s were out for a little bit longer. That's something that probably shouldn't happen. We've been through enough raids now where we've had this rolling completion that I would hope that this gets corrected and doesn't happen again.
There's a really big bug that's not on this list that, I mean, it's like the elephant in the room, because this annoys the shit out of me because I really like the auto hulls because of just the amount of time and everything. And why in the hell was I driving the auto hull like a skill hull? I mean, I was driving it like a skill hull. I had to drive it like a skill hull to get worse repair times than the actual skill hull. So I was driving it like that, but not getting the benefit of driving it like a skill hull. I mean, what the hell is going on with that? What is the deal with this? And that's I think the biggest thing that I want to hear something from Kixeye from, and I'm not a damn peep. Why are we driving the auto/blitz hull like it's a skill hull? I mean, if that's the case, then you better put some damn friggin' some range on that thing.
The biggest problem,
invisible friggin' scatter guns too. Oh, that was a nice surprise.
Yes, every single hull in there had a little tiny scatter gun. Even if you mowed all the turrets off of the barges, there's still a little scatter gun on there that shoots you.
The funniest part of that, and by funniest I mean the most horrible part of it, is like even if you pinch the turret carrier, and it was all pinched, and so you killed all the turrets so they didn't fire at you. Once you killed the turrets, the damn scatter gun started firing at you.
You couldn't pinch the thing.
No, because it's invisible. You don't see that.
It's ridiculous.
I zoomed in. Where is that? Am I missing? No, it's not there.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that the damn things were on there because I was doing some of the videos trying to find like a path that would help or a combo that would help to cut down the damage, and I found out agility system was absolutely worthless in a raid that the majority of the enemy's fire is missiles. Agility, evade, psh, nah, that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, the only way you see there's a scatter gun firing at you, you see the blips on the water.
Yep. And you
don't
see the damage.
Projectiles, you don't see weapons on the ships, you just see 2-3 blips hitting the water behind you if you're moving fast, or on you if you're not, and they hurt.
Yeah, and I had to actually go back and watch one of the videos that I had posted, and I'm like, holy crap, it is. I was like, son of a bitch, what the hell is that? And you can't, someone said, if you zoom in, you'll be able to see, the really small projectile. I'm like, no one's going to zoom in because you can't drive that target zoomed in. you can't see what's coming at you.
I can't
You
see
know?
on the best of days, so
So-
an itty bitty projectile isn't going to cut it.
I mean, you know, evade not working is another one that's, you know, the whole point of Guidance Scrambler is, I mean, the nexus of it, the original thing was it was only supposed to work on missiles, and now it doesn't work on missiles at all. And then we had the countermeasure thing with like all sorts of wonkiness with the countermeasures working, not working, different ones working better than others.
Like
and
scripts that have worse numbers than flanks were doing better than phalanx.
Yeah.
Something it's like nothing more makes sense. You cannot trust what you read. You cannot trust what the game shows you. It's going to work whichever way they decide it's going to work, and what you see is absolutely not what you get.
Yep.
Okay, not to cut you guys off. I don't want to go way over. I know we're probably going to be a little bit longer.
Everybody's pissed right now. I mean,
I know the one thing that we did get in response. There was a response posted by Rampage. You know, again, he's not the person necessarily that came up with this. So, you know, betting on him and insulting him.
yeah,
you know,
it wasn't him. Someone gave him this to put up, and honestly,
Well,
it
his
was a
kick's eye
disservice.
stalking him. So
It
if
was-
you
yeah,
meta kicks eye, the tomatoes will fly on his face, unfortunately.
But it was a disservice to both the community and him, because now we're more cynical, distrustful, and everyone's going to focus on him when, you know, his job is supposed to be interacting with us. So his boss just made his job harder because he told him to lie to us. I mean, this is absolute bullshit right now.
You all know community manager kicks eye doesn't have a long lifespan, right?
True.
Yep.
I wonder why.
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's a health hazard.
All right. So the first part of his response, and I broke it down into 3 slides, was that we had 4 months to adjust to the siege cycle targets. Start of a new cycle where you now have room to grow and improve your performance in the assault cycle targets for the next 4 months. Most of us are well aware of how this works. You know, we certainly don't expect to walk the very first raid. We know that we're going to be building. We know that the raid is going to increase in difficulty, and we know that we're going to finish our fleets as we go along. What we don't expect is to right out of the gate run into what seemingly felt like a brick wall, because then that sets up concerns for the following raids. So, George?
And so before we move on, in terms of expectation, okay, all of us here have been playing a long time, so we know what you expect, right? And, you know, I expect that in the first raid, I will not be able to hit the elite target, because I usually don't get to have 4 complete, finished, skull ships. I don't get that, because, you know, I don't coin the XP weekend, and I don't coin much build, so they're always missing something. Like my Buccaneers in January were missing 1 special, missing 2 armors, no flagship. So yeah, I couldn't do the elite target, but hey, I could grind 2 or 3 if I put the right crew, and if I used an old flagship, I could grind 4 sets of 80s. This raid, I could do 2. Best case, I could do 2 sets of 80s, and the sets of 80s had 1 target less. So I was being murdered by 4 targets, when before I could do like 6 or 2-9 before docking. That's my expectation, that I'll have to downgrade to 80s and grind. But I don't want to repeat the same points over and over, but the gators are paying a lot less and damaging a lot more. You know, it's crazy.
All right, George.
So these targets were supposed to be more challenging for our fleets, right? And, you know, as many of us knew, we didn't have fully built fleets of mana cores yet, although some of us had 4 and were expecting to, you know, get some return on our investment. And then this was the best. It leaves us room to improve as the event cycle continues. And I think I said this last week. I challenged somebody at Kickside to just take my fleet and try and run a better run than I did, because it ain't going to happen. There's no room for improvement there. So the couple of issues were, how did they expect us to improve for the next raid when the targets are going to be tuned for that? I mean, are these already, like, is this the end tuning for the target for the raid set? Is that what happened? I mean, that would be nice to know. Someone should let us know, because if that's the case, then great. Yeah, it's going to get easier as we progress. But historically, we know that doesn't happen. So our expectation as players who've been playing for a long time is that, yeah, there's not room for improvement. It's going to get worse, even if we have all the stuff, right? Because it's going to be tuned for it.
And my expectation is that they're going to add an 85 on that 80 set.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that the only room for improvement on some of these is that it's going to be based on tech, which they've purposely restricted. So there's not really room to improve. It's, hey, we're withholding your tech, so surprise, that's the room that's going to improve. You have to actually win these prizes to improve. That's not even a room for improvement. That's just crap. And then the the scatter auto hull is a myth. I actually like that phrasing. The scatter auto hull is a myth. There's no way to mitigate the damage to a semi-acceptable level unless you're going to drive it like you own the target. I mean, I did get it down to just over an hour and a half, and I drove the hell out of that. And that was no crew and no rocket. Typically, I would have to run a crew and a rocket to get between like 140 and 150, right? And that's insane. That's worse than what I would expect on auto, let alone driving it. And then, a challenge is driving skills with a good build. Not guaranteed punitive damage no matter how well you build or drive. That makes no sense for a raid.
Yep. If I drive well, I want to be rewarded. When you drive really well and you still get spanked, that's a concern.
Yeah, and if I invest in the stuff to have ready, I expect a return on that investment, not getting smacked upside the head.
Yep. Okay. And the last one was also coming off the siege cycle where the targets were much easier than they were intended to be. However, to maintain your experience, we did not change the mechanics of the targets during the cycle. That didn't really answer the question as to why players with Skyfires and Phoenix fleets were struggling to complete the lower targets or to complete the sets. If you can't do a full set of 60s with the top of the line build from last raid, then there's a problem. In just about all raids for the last 2 years, the prior raid fleet has been able to perform and grind the targets. Not so this time. You could do it with like individual targets and stack those, but you could not take advantage of the bonuses. And as Ren said, you were able to complete multiple tier 7 sets with incomplete fleets for multiple cycles. The coin cost per points received has been stable for multiple raid cycles. We know that it's usually going to cost about X many coin for an elite target and, all the way down through the line. That significantly changed this time around. And then don't punish the players with an unbalanced raid, due to a prior raid issue. Anybody have anything they want to add to that real quick?
Oh, hell yes.
For next month, they should bring back the Hunter-Killer Mortar.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the only thing missing here is the Hunter-Killer Mortar.
I mean, look, so I've become accustomed to this because as Ren says, I nitpick over my builds incessantly, right? And I try and optimize them as much as possible because I'm a lazy bastard. And with 2 crews, if I'm running a concurrent cruise, I generally expect to be able to auto the S set for about 1 coin because I've invested in the build, the time to design it and get everything, refit and everything, testing it, refitting again. And then the crews are not exactly the easiest crews in the world to get. They take a lot of time to get. So all that time investment, all that investment, I expect a return. And that's where I've become comfortable in seeing. If this is what's going to happen, then they better bring back hey, we're going to give you punitive damage. Well, if we're going to have punitive damage, then you better go back to like the Hellwraith and go, if you do it right, you get 0 damage because this is absolute crap.
But then if you're going to go back to that, or the Hellwraith was like that applies to the Manticore missile version. The Manticore scattergun version should behave like a Tide Seeker where you could do multiple sets.
Yep.
That's true too, yes.
Before docking.
Yep. That's true too.
And Fangs. I mean, the Hunter, you could do a couple of targets, and Fangs, if you drove them really well, it was very, very minor repairs.
Yeah, just like Hydra and Buckies was the same thing. I could keep going on and on and on with the Hydras in the last raid once I had them done.
Yep. So some solutions. I thought we've already touched.
Next month.
Yeah, there are a couple things here. We talked about limiting distribution of check. Tuning the targets. Rethink that hit down multiplier, adjust the points to coin ratio and make the auto hull great again. Okay, so I thought I'd throw this in here because I thought this was absolutely hilarious today. I lost a blueprint and I was cranky about it, and then I looked on the news and thought, ooh, okay, that's a little bit different. I lose a blueprint and the US Air Force has lost grenade launchers. Okay, weekly update. We've got Hydrus Hollow. This is a repeat of the last one that's out there. Nothing has changed on this. It's still exactly the same way it is. The token counts are the same. Prize packs are the same. If you have completed the early prize packs in these, you don't have to repeat them, which is really good. They also brought back the charged path the charged path. Call that charged path. I'm sorry. It's the Path to Continent co-op TLC. This was where you get the Buccaneer and the associated toys with it, as well as Buccaneer targets, Buccaneer tokens, and VXP. This is a co-op one. My understanding is the targets have not changed, so there are various targets for various fleets. Note, the player that starts the TLC is the one that gets the reward. So if you're going to help somebody, they need to start it, go into the gunboat, you jump in and help them.
Do it for them. I mean, literally, yes. There's no excuse not to get a Buccaneer and the whole kit in there. And even you need to start the campaign by your base, join with the gunboat, park the gunboat in the corner, let somebody do it for you, and you get it. Period. Yeah. It's that simple.
And even if you do have it, there are tokens in there that you can use. I know for me, it was very little time invested repair-wise. You know, I could knock out 4 or 5 of them and then to help people and then, you know, go off and repair and do the same thing the next day. There are tokens in there that are worth it. We also have VXP weekend. No changes from the last VXP weekend. They've got remote raiders, salvage and elites. Of course, this is the second time now we've seen this where we don't have the increase in the payouts. We have the level 105 VXP assault style target, which probably will be a repeat of the last one, going from Friday until Saturday. And then you can't retreat in that. If you do complete that, you will get the 3 Defender class VXP tokens. Best thing to do, especially on like the Saturday night, is roam around all the sectors and look for half-finished versions of these because it's just great to fill up on those tokens.
Just one comment, Lorian2721 mentioned that on chat, and it's true. The Manticores are absolutely not adequate to the old assault targets. So when you do Path to Continent, you're better off doing the assault level with Phoenixes or Skyfires, which were built for that, than with Manticores. Manticores will take a beating because they have no resistance to stunning.
That's a really good point. Thanks for that. Okay. Base parts map targets. Ren, this is your world today.
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Ren?
No, sorry. I was coughing a little bit and I went on mute.
My apologies.
You got to stop smoking that crack pipe, dude.
I don't do that.
Okay.
I already play Battle Pirates. I don't need other drugs.
You took a look at the new map targets today. I mean, we understand that they have been pulled because they're taking a look at them, but I think you had the opportunity and made a video of what the new ones were like.
Yeah, it's on my channel. I ran through all of them with the same Hydra fleet. So I launched my Hydra fleet, was fully healed. And I went in order, 32, 51, 66, 82, 98. Those numbers don't match what I saw on the map, by the way. But anyways, you know, I don't think they had to pull them. Like the 32 was up to the 82 was easy. The 98 was okay. The 105 was a bloodbath. Right. I mean, I did the 32 up to the 98, and I had like an hour and something repair on my Hydras, which is okay. And then the 105, at the end of the 105, I had like 5 hours. So it was about nearly 4 hours repair on a 105. With that Hydra fleet, I wouldn't be able to do 2 of those. Just 1.
So it was an hour repair. An hour repair for the 105?
No, an hour for everything from the 32 to the 98.
Okay. All right.
Then 4 hours for the 105.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd heard reports a guy threw a Bucky in on auto and had like 4-something hours, and then he took his Hydras in and said he was getting nailed by a very long range ballistic turret that just like disintegrated his fleet.
And people who took the Buckies were being destroyed with like 5-6 hours of repairs as well.
You know, the issue is these things are chore targets, right? These are going on the map, and they're supposed to be tuned down for us.
Well, whoever said in the past that they would tune them down before moving them from raid to map targets probably doesn't work there anymore, and whoever's there now doesn't feel like they have to honor that.
That's insane.
Historically, Kixeye has not done that.
Yeah, they haven't. They've never done it.
Yep. Okay. So just note that when they come back, not sure when that's going to be, they're going to be out there for a while on the map. And then on June 13, the current Scourge siege targets will no longer spawn. So we've got about a month's notice to get used to, figure out the ones that are on there, and then the old ones are gone. And from what I understand, I don't know if this has been corrected, the old base parts targets are not showing up on the locator. So they are on the map. We are just back to the old days where we had to go hunt for them.
Expect asininity.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, my concern, and of course I only hit one, and that one went well. The new Legion Siege 82 that pays 90,000 base parts, that's the 83 from the raid. You remember what happened to the 83 every now and then?
Mm-hmm.
Exploding ships.
Yeah, there was a crack in there that just instantly destroyed your ships.
I wondered if it has that horrible emitter in the same place as well.
So, you know, that thing's probably still there. I doubt they changed the way they coded the target. So it's, I don't know. I mean, I want to see when people start hitting that 82 over and over, because the payout's good for the damage I took on the 82. The payout was good.
Okay, someone is just saying on chat that they are now, the old ones are now on the locator. So happy to see that. They definitely weren't there
When
earlier.
the new ones were out, the old ones disappeared from the locator.
Instant death above the center island in the 83. Okay, well, it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay. FM changes and prizes. We've got new prizes being introduced this week. Of note, revisiting the prize list next week to help you better progress. This may be your last chance to pick up some items. So read into that if you've got a couple of old items that are still left in some of the tiers, it probably would be a good thing for you to pick those up if you can this week, because it sounds like we're going to be losing stuff starting next week.
Why don't they just move them down a tier? Why take them out? That makes no damn sense.
Well, nowadays where really there's no forced ladder and you just pick whatever the heck you want, I don't even see a reason to remove anything unless it's not relevant in the game anymore. If they're going to remove stuff that's not relevant in the game anymore, doesn't have a place in the game anymore, and they don't want people building that because it's useless, okay. But there's no other reason to clean up anymore, because just leave it there.
Oh, maybe it's limited like dock space. They've run out of FM space.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at some of the new stuff that's in there. Just in the order of what they were done. Ballistic overlay. This is pretty much the ballistic version of the missile one that we just got.
Yep. Interesting that it came out before the ballistic hull, but okay.
Oh, when we were talking about base parts, did we mention that now you can use base parts to upgrade everything?
No, we did not.
We said that in pre-show that we were going to remember to do that. Yeah, so you can upgrade your turrets now using base parts.
Everything Outpost 10, the warehouses, turrets, everything that you need to upgrade.
What about the Conquest Yard?
Yeah, base parts on everything.
Interesting. Well, that kind of makes sense as to why there was no structure tokens in the raid.
And the dock and the shipyard as well. I know the dock is a problem for many people.
Yep. So that kind of explains why those were out there. And so, okay. Ballistic overlay. So this is the brother, I guess, of the missile version that came out prior to the raid. It's got the additional 20% building defense. Pretty much same as the other ones that are there. Moving on to the SB1 splash buffer. Any thoughts on this one, George?
This one's going to be interesting. It's like the other one that we have for the kinetic motion one, where if you put it on the outpost, you're going to get a reduction of splash of 35%. What I'm really curious about is how this is going to stack with anything that you have on buildings. So
It's
I'm not
stacks.
sure. Yes, but which way? Multiplicatively or additively? That's the catch.
Oh, you
Yeah,
just take
because
the
we don't
square
know.
root and then to the
Yeah, I
power of
mean,
7, and then you
so
multiply by my mom's bra size, and then there you go.
right. So
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting special. We're going to see, and I don't know if this is coming out ahead of something or if this is coming out because of the other prize that came out.
Well, let's move on and take a look at those. This is the Achilles Missile D55M. I did include the Siege D55 that we just got not too long ago that came out with the MSC so that we could run some comparisons. But this one, the damage is pretty similar. The over damage increased on this one from 636 to 680. The explosive deflection is on there as well.
But
Can
man,
I share the secret sauce?
Go for it.
So if you want to do damage, stick to the D55X. That one will do a lot better damage because it has 2 damage types and it has flak evasion, so it's going to hit more often. Okay? If you want to slow down the attacker from a very, 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 very long distance, put a couple of those D55Ms because it's not a slow down field effect where the tactical insulator or that kind of stuff makes a difference. It's an actual slow on the ship, not a field, right? So having tactical resistance doesn't matter against that slow effects. Like what's the rocket? The lockdown rocket. What matters is what you get from Agility System 4, that slow resistance. That's what's going to counter this. So you put that guy, a couple of those babies on a Warden that has a super long remote range, you can be slowing down the attacker from a very long distance.
Yep.
I would also like to follow on from Ren. The D55X, as you see, has a 5-second reload. The new one has an 8-second reload, so you're going to be putting out a whole lot less missiles.
Yeah, no, it's going to be like a third of the damage done, if that much, because it's the D55X reloads faster. There's 2 damage types, so that over damage applies to both damage types, so you double that, and has flak evasion. So hands down, the D55X is the best option to hurt. The D55M is very interesting tactically to slow down the enemy from a very long distance.
Yep.
Excellent points. Thanks, Ren. Okay, moving on to the assault mortar. This is the L84X, and I'll be honest, guys, I did not get a chance to take a look at this one, so somebody help me out here.
This one's really interesting because of those special abilities. That fire field, and it stacks 5 times with the explosive deflection debuff. Now, given the new armors and the combinations that people are thinking about, this on top of, a combination of a Warden, like I have my Warden set up so you have to get into the field. So this hitting with the Warden hitting, and then if you have some of the Cannibal Wendigos, you may be giving someone a bad day. It definitely is an interesting. This is again another one that's a tactical type of weapon. I think this is not really for going to hit other bases. There's no 2 damage types on this one either. I don't know how it goes with the reload time with the other one.
But now you understand why last bounty they had that tactical module that extinguishes fire fields, right?
Yep.
To counter this guy.
Of note, just so that people understand this and they're not shocked later on, this is only allowed on Conqueror hulls. Yeah,
but it's nice because it's like 14,000 damage and it's single salvo, unlike most mortars, right? It's good.
I mean, to think ahead here, we know the ballistic hull's coming out, and we have those new plates that we're going to look at in a second on an onslaught that has some good things for the mortars. Just saying, something to look at.
Yep. Okay, since we're all waiting with bated breath for this one. MC Plate 2. Again, I've got the current one, and then I guess we're going to call this one its baby brother that was released prior to this. George, I know you have something to say about this.
Oh, they screwed this up again. I mean, this is not base hitting is still dead. I was hoping to see something that came out that would actually let us at least get into some bases with good tactical driving, or dumbing up a fleet so you could sneak a couple other hulls by it, something. And we're not going to see that, because you can use it in conjunction with the MC Plate 1. You can only put 2 on a hull. So if you put 2 of these on and 3 of the MC Plate 1s, which means that you're open to all sorts of other crap, you're still not going to survive. You're going to die. It just doesn't give you enough deflection. And even like someone was messing with the onslaught, because this on an onslaught, if you put that combination on, they're not going to get hurt by any ballistic at all. However, you're going to get hammered with other things, right? And even if you try and if you max out your pen deflection on the onslaught with weapons and stuff, it's still not enough.
This will be good, though, hopefully for defender hulls to counter the next impact hull coming from Bounty 11, 10, whatever the next one is.
10, yeah. So just what I think you were saying, George, is that even with all of this combined, if somebody's running around with all of the new toys plus fire support,
you're screwed.
Gold plate or whatever's, they're still not getting in.
Still screwed. PvP's dead. No base hitting.
You mean no base hitting versus good bases?
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
I mean, yeah, the baby seals are still going to be able to get clubbed, but I mean,
which means bounty, where pretty much only the very good bases have exposed bounty that's worth the risk.
Yep.
Right?
No worries now.
On the high-level replicas from the well-built bases, you're also out.
Yeah.
On the other hand, somebody goes all in with MC2 and MC1, 3 and 2 and whatnot. I mean, they're going to be totally exposed to radioactive and corrosive damage.
Yes.
Concussive, there are some weapons who can give decent concussive, but corrosive and radioactive are going to be totally exposed.
Yep. And I mean, I can see with this that yes, we're getting closer to the point where, yeah, you're going to have to start making some decisions, this and that, but we're not there yet. And instead of trying to come out with something that maybe, maybe balances enough so we could actually participate in, like, say, bounty. I mean, now everyone's just like, yeah. I mean, I know, and I hate to say this, but I know that there are a couple of the big alliances are actually thinking about not participating at all, because I mean, what the hell? No one wants to sit and grind.
When you say a couple of the big alliances, are you including your alliance?
Yeah. Would that mean one of the golden nexuses would be available for anybody but the top 3 alliances?
I don't know. I mean, I've been hearing,
or they just get them all.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing it from more than just my alliance. I mean, there's like, people are really upset because it's already been 3 weeks that you can't hit. And now we're going to be, how long?
And then we just added 2 Howies into that mix as well.
So, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
And before you'll be able to get an impact on the water, we'll have also gotten at least 2 more turrets from the bounty.
Yep. Okay.
I really want them to re-release the halos, because I don't know, I can't defend my base without the halos.
They were a silly weapon.
But
they're very
the
interesting.
executioner's good.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I really dislike this whole tier bonus thingy, just FYI.
All right, so that's it for the MC Plate 2. Bug fixes and balance changes. Fixed an issue with zombie turrets in the event targets. That was for the last raid. I hope we won't see those again for the next one. Fixed an issue where the Scorpion Sting campaign would not allow manticores at one point. That was a result of the update that was corrected. And then fixed an issue where Phoenix and Skyfire hulls were unable to use tokens once retrofitted. So glad that they got that fixed. That was all I had with respects to slides. Any last minute thoughts, guys? Ren?
Yeah.
Okay. George?
Yeah, I can't say what I want to say. So
See,
not on this show.
That's why I did what I did, because
yeah.
I can't either.
Not on this show.
Right.
I mean, what I really like is freaking Kixeye to start like communicate with the damn community, because everyone's pissed off right now. I mean, this is ridiculous. And you know, on top of it, we're getting bounty changes too, and we still don't know the extent of those. And I mean, what the hell? Come on.
Yeah.
Something.
Cuttlefish, by golly, we threw you off the deep end for your first show.
Oh yes, it's okay though. No, for this raid cycle, I just plan to endure this raid cycle. I don't plan to wildly succeed in this. I'm just planning to endure it, and hopefully they can fix some of the stuff and make this more enjoyable.
Yeah. Agreed. You know, the player's message is loud. The player's message was clear. There was a massive lack of players playing in the raid. I know there were folks that were able to go through it and help prep because of holes that they had built, but a lot of players did not participate. Yep, the Cadies. A lot of players that normally would coin did not coin. There were some that didn't coin as much as they normally would, and then there were some that hit a couple of targets and said, not today, and logged off completely. And it's definitely shown in participation. It's shown in just how many people were in the game. So I certainly hope that Kix is taking the information that they are being given in all of the formats, no matter what the page is, no matter what the show is, whether it's on Facebook or on the forums. You know, once you filter out all of the chaff, there are some really good points being made by the players. And so I'm hopeful that they will take a look at that. Ren, you said you had something in addition?
I just wanted to share something Venom shared with me, and you guys probably saw it. Just he did all the detailed math. I'm just going to do the high level on why missile storm cruisers will die to bases with 4 Howies and 2 blunderbusses.
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet on the TFC page.
Yeah. I just wanted to do the quick 30-second, George.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's just because even if you put 2 of the new MC2 plates, that's the maximum, and 3 of the old MC1 plates, that's the maximum. And that means you're opening yourself up to radioactive and corrosive galore, like 0 deflection, right? You can only get to barely 4 million ballistic deflection. Sounds like a lot, but properly set up Howie, when you have 4 of it and 2 of the blunderbusses and fire support around it and whatnot, will do 4.9 million versus 4 million deflection on a crit hit. So you're pretty much going to be taking 460 damage, 460,000 damage per crit from 1 cannon. If you have the 4 firing, you know, it's just going to kill missile storm cruisers real fast. That's all I wanted to share. Thanks, Venom, for sharing. That's it. Details on the TFC page.
Thanks, Phantom. So, you know, again, we hear you guys. We know you're frustrated. We're frustrated as well. Hopefully,
we're pissed.
Hopefully, frustrated. Hopefully, they will hear us loud and clear. We've certainly tried to get that information across. We will have the open mic this week on Saturday, as per normal. And thank you. Sorry?
Get here early.
Yeah, I'm going to start taking bids on spots for the show. Just kidding. But seriously though, if you have not done so, get out there. We had a couple of new faces last time. It was really good to hear different perspectives. We will go ahead, of course, post the slides on the page. Thank you to everybody that did show up at chat. I apologize. We went a little bit longer than normal, but we felt that it was warranted to do a more in-depth review of the raid. So thanks for hanging with us, and we'll catch you all next week.
Yep.
Thanks guys.
For coming out, guys. Have a good
good night.
week, and thank you. Night.
To answer one last question, go missile. Don't go scattergun, unless they change everything up again. Good night.
Bye.